Hello, and welcome back to the Youth Voice. In this episode, we will be having a discussion with our special guest, Kristy.
I have been invited to do an interview because I'm a mom in the area and I've been doing a lot of community organizing over the last decade.
The Youth Voice is a youth-run podcast that discusses issues that the youth and adults population of Edmonton face.
We will be doing an episode a week for the next year, and we're really hoping that this will spark change in the community today.
We will be doing a variety of interviews with a variety of youth and adults.
Some of the topics that we will be discussing are the homeless population, youth transit safety, and many more. Thanks for watching, and we hope you guys enjoy!
So, Kristy, what do you do as a community member?
Over the years, we've talked a little bit in the past, but over the last 13, I guess, years since I've become a mom, what I've been doing has been focusing on what I needed as a mom, what my kids need. And I've been organizing activities for me and the people around me for quite a while.
What do you hope to accomplish as an individual for the community?
Usually, my motivation is almost always just getting things done that need to get done. Like where I see there's to be a gap, I want to fill that gap as much as possible because there's often quite a big space between maybe kind of what's needed or ideal and what's available. At least if in my experience, I find that as a mom. And so what I hope to accomplish is to help understand where there's a need and to do what I can with people who have the same goals as me to help fill that need.
What specific things have you already accomplished within our community?
So I guess since I've been a mom, right when my son was first born, was right from the beginning kind of organized things like baby food making with other people, other moms. So we would get together so we weren't sort of alone and bored with our little babies at home. So I did that. I did things like, kind of a collective kitchen type thing from my home ever since I had a baby. And then over the years, it just was changing depending upon how old my kids were. So like a mom's group, once they got older, bringing in lots of activities, painting, arts. And then as they got even older, festivals, and, up until now, I'm still evolving with them.
What matters most to you and your community?
What matters most, I would say, largely what matters most is autonomy and relationships. So I try to build and maintain relationships with people. It's good for me and it's good for my kids. And I'd say in the last few years after COVID and the pandemic and the impact of that on people and on their families, I think it just showed more than before that we really do need connection. There's a lot more talk about isolation and the impact of isolation on people. And so I think I always intuitively tried to prevent that. And then when COVID happened and how it impacted us, I think there's more evidence that we really need to be intentional about being connected so that we don't experience the bad side of isolation.
What is working well in terms of tackling community issues?
What's working well for my own self specifically has just been, I guess, finding like-minded people and building relationships with those like-minded people and maintaining those relationships, often for many years. So I think that's something I've been able to understand sometimes who matches and who doesn't, and in terms of my priorities. And I've worked hard to make sure that I'm working with the like-minded, focused kind of people.
What challenges have you faced tackling community issues?
So my challenges have been different depending upon where I am in life and kind of what's going on. It's all kind of current event based, really. So challenges in the last while, where I found isolation was a challenge, that we didn't have the ability to kind of go out publicly quite the same, really a little bit more stuck in our own homes. There was some negative, I'd say, impacts of that in terms of community. maybe some positives too, because I think people were a little bit more maybe connected in smaller groups, and that was maybe a good thing. Part of that is a good thing, but in terms of finding spaces to gather and help find the affordable, sort of accessible spaces for different people who are just needing, something to do in their local community, that's always been a challenge because it requires a budget, and most people don't have a budget sitting around to bring people together to pay for halls and things like that. So that's always been a challenge, is finding spaces that are affordable and accessible and making the kind of activities what people want.
Okay, what do you advocate for?
I'm a mom and I've got a couple kids, and so I think I largely advocate for moms and kids. That seems to be like broadly what I advocate for. More specifically, it depends on where I am in life, how much energy I have. I am a nurse. I'm a nurse and I work full time, and that takes a lot of energy. It truly does. And I'd say that I advocate for kind of overall health and well-being, health prevention, or health promotion, disease prevention in whatever form that takes. I really do that work in my work world, and then I do it in my non-work life too. But in my non-work life, it tends to focus on moms and then kids, often specifically within my own children's ages, because I only have so much energy. There's lots of things I'd like to do that I just don't have enough time in the day for.
What are you currently working on that obviously you could talk about at this moment?
So right now I have a grant project, for example, and this is part of it, which is been able to support online discussions, community discussions, bring people together virtually as well as in person. And the other part of that project is to do and support some improv theater groups in our local area, kind of a youth age focus. And we are working with Third Space Playback Theater, which is a local improv group.
We have one more question for you. How did you get involved in community work?
I can't recall a time where I wasn't involved in community work. The things I've talked about here have been more just since I've become a mom. And maybe that's where I've done a lot, I guess, since I became a mom. But as a young person, I lived in a rural community. The way I was raised, everyone was sort of a part of community, very active in community. And my family and the people, like I still spend a lot of time in the country, and people are still sort of actively community organizing all the time. We just don't necessarily call it that. We just call it kind of, it's sort of a way of life, an expectation of living. I'd say it's more urban, where people describe it as a thing, like an activity that you have to do, that is worth mentioning. Whereas really where I was raised, you just did those things, and why wouldn't you do that? So I'd say that's the biggest difference.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us. I think we're going to end the episode here.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for listening to the Youth Voice, and we hope that you enjoyed.
We will have more episodes coming out once a week on Mondays at 4:30.
Check us out on our Instagram for updates.
We also post our podcast on Spotify and YouTube, so you can find us there and listen. Thanks for watching the podcast. See you guys next time.